my main focus is for my methodology is this concept called participant observation. A lot of anthropology is done this way, but I think the easiest way to think of it is that like we learn by doing. So if I want to learn like the cultural landscape of a community, I need to participate within it to the extent that I can. Being that I was essentially a native in the terms of like not indigenous,
Right.
as in that I'm from Kansas City, born and raised. I had a ton of access that allowed me to, I don't want to say fully participate, but um, I was allowed into spaces based upon that I had known people for 20, 25 years that were professionals in the MMA community. I had connections way before even trying to do any sort of research. And so my real goal was to just live the life of a Midwestern MMA fighter. COVID happened and it kind of messed up some things. I ended up staying in the field for a longer time than I wanted, but a lot of really positive things happened for me down there. I lost a lot of weight because I was training all the time and I was finally eating correctly. And it it really kind of made me think of, you were talking about how I try to think like follow my feelings. I tried to feel what it felt to be an MMA fighter. There was moments like which I talk about in my research, my dissertation, but of like having a fight fall through and like how angry and depressed and all those things felt to me. And I think that's kind of what we need to learn. I think you can kind of plot out all these different things of like these people do this, these people do this, these people do this, these people do this, and I think we need to know why they do it and how that makes them feel. Um, and so that's also why I wanted to participate in an MMA fight. I felt it would be kind of hypocritical to say like, "Hey, I'm trying to live life as a Midwestern MMA fighter," and then just not going in there. Um, I've had a lot of pushback on that. Some people thought it was really dangerous and it maybe sets a bad precedent for other researchers. Not that it was dangerous for me to get into a fight, although like I can see their argument to that. But what does that mean for people who could potentially read my stuff in the future? Well, if they're coming up with something dangerous, they saw me deal with it. That doesn't necessarily create a good reciprocal action. So
Sorry,
okay.
I don't mean to cut you off. This is really interesting, but you had the prerequisites to do MMA because you wrestled initially. So
Yes,
so
absolutely.
you had one of the best foundations as far as one aspect of MMA and combat sports, which is the wrestling aspect. So it's not like you
Yeah.
were at a disadvantage, right?
No, and I don't, and I think that's why they allowed me to do it. There's just a fear of like,
Injury.
well, not just that, like people study other things, and so if you're in another studying, not even martial arts, but say you're studying political activism,
Right.
it might convince them to do something
Oh, I see where you're
against
going with that. Yes, yes, yes.
against their own well-being.
Right.
And those are really tough conversations we have to have. But at the end of the day, I think you got to fight to study fighting, which kind of sucks. I don't want to kind of gatekeep it that the able body is the hierarchy of producing good literature, but it's tough. You got to fight to know what it feels like to get hit and to be tired and to be depressed because you've been getting hit and all of these things like that. So yeah, not to ramble too much there, but my main focus was to essentially live the life of a fighter.
Fascinating. As far as what you just said there in terms of gatekeeping, I think most would agree. Most within, I'm generalizing it, within the mixed martial arts community would rather see a researcher write about this who's done it. If it's one time, two time, doesn't matter, right? You step into the proverbial cage from the lens of a practitioner, competitor, and an academic researcher. So I mean, it adds. I think, in my opinion, it adds a lot of credibility to the research. And it's interesting that. Sorry, I think you had a point.
No, I think you're 100% right, and the community kind of reciprocated those thoughts. I just don't want to make it seem like to study martial arts, you got to go put yourself at an inherent risk. Um, but
Yeah, it's an
yeah,
excellent point you're making, and I think you're covering the entire picture there. But I think, you know, for most, there's so many different stakeholders within the mixed martial arts community outside
mhm,
of just the fighting, right? There's, you know, the support staff, if you want to call them that, the coaches, the trainers, the promoters on the business side, you know, the referees, and all that on the administrative end. So it's an entire sort of ecosystem, if we could say that.
yeah,
But
yeah. And within the Kansas City spaces, it kind of became even even more intimate for me. Like you watched the fight, I hope. I
oh
say
yes, of course,
uh,
absolutely.
people who are in my corner were people I've known for so long that I I felt beholden to them in a lot of ways to do these things. Like
Mm.
um, I I obviously wanted to be a part of the community, but I am a part of the community, and so it really, I don't want to make it seem like I had to do it for research either, because I like fighting a lot, and this is something that I wanted to do, and I had people behind me who loved me not just because of the research I did, but because we tied shoes together growing up, and
Mhm.
um, that really motivated me to do it in this way, I guess.